Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name's Colin Kinchela. I'm a Gomeroi Māori, and I'll be your host or slash MC. I'm not sure about MC. For today's event, which is the Access Ideas and Insights First Nations Storytelling. I'd like to begin and to invite Daniel McDonald, who's one of our panellists, up to open the event with a welcome to country.
I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for coming. I know thank God it's a bit cooler in here. It's not sweating and hot like it is outside. It's lovely in here. Okay, so my name is Daniel, and I'm a proud deaf Aboriginal man. I'm an actor and an artist, and I go by the name of Deadly Hand Talk. I'm a member of the Sydney Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council and Brand X. Today I'm here to perform Welcome to Gadigal Country. I would like to pay my respects to the Aboriginal elders, past, present, and respectfully acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters that are joining us here today. It doesn't matter which Aboriginal nation you've come from, whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, we are all brothers and sisters. As we gather here today at this meeting, it's only right that we honour our traditional custodians of the local lands and waters. Today is the 16th of March, 2026, and I have a special event for Access Ideas and Insight. First Nations Storytelling. It is great to have you here today, and thank you, Aretha Brown and Akala Newman, and Colin as well. I would like to thank you for inviting me to this event. There are many different cultures and great diversity of people in Australia, including people with LGBTQIA and disability. I would like to tell you a story of one of my paintings called Thrive, and Time is Now. We could not hear and we could not see behind us. There is a hand on my back and it pushes. We're falling into a black hole. And we could not see. We could not hear in the dark. We figure it out. We feel a chair, sitting on a chair. There is no one to talk to in the dark, sitting in silence. For many hours, days, and months, there is nowhere to go. Inside the black hole, it is pitch black. Darkness is the hardest part of life. The black hole has no rope. What will we do? The sun rises across the sky. Sun rays touch our hands. It's enough to see our roots growing up the wall. A caterpillar starts crawling down the black hole. Watch the caterpillar wrapping up on the wall. It stays there for many weeks. Its wrap breaks out. Wings. The caterpillar has changed into a butterfly. We watch as a butterfly flies out of the black hole. There is a new strong branch. We listen to our hearts and we learn. Nobody tells us and nobody shows us how to break the barriers. Nobody throws a rope. We start climbing with the branch, starting to breathe, and we climb out of the black hole. We smell green grass and purple violet flowers. The clouds start breaking apart and the sun shines bright yellow over the rainbow, watching the butterfly until saying goodbye. We are like a bird and we know what we are doing. I can fly where I can be free. Time is now, loud and proud. Let us thrive. On Gadigal land today, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you're from, but you are here on Gadigal land, remembering the past, the present, acknowledgement, inclusion, understanding, love. Each other, respect each other. Please keep contact with your families and friends. Travel home safely. I want to say a big thank you to the staff who have set up this event. Enjoy your event. Thank you. Just want to let you know, I actually forgot to say before I started that I actually have some vision impaired people here. They're wearing green shirts. Got blue jeans. Oh, sorry. Just to explain what I was looking like for those that are vision impaired. I have 3 interpreters. Rosemary, who's using her voice for me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, my brother. Thanks, Daniel. That's just really vivid words that you expressed then. You took us on a little journey, and I really enjoyed that, and I hope everyone else enjoyed it too. It's really powerful words there, and hearing the brightness when there's darkness, and being present too. I think also in this place that we're meeting and that we're meeting this afternoon is pretty powerful as well. It's, this is Gumbaynggirr and also the boards here that have been trod on by some of the most profound First Nation movement practitioners and dancers that this continent's ever seen. It's pretty powerful to be in the room. There's some beautiful energy here as well. And I'd just like to give respect to that as well, because that continues on, and being of that age that I am, and knowing that I've got some wonderful people here on the panel that are maybe a bit younger, that are you and me, Braz, we're the older ones. And feeling the energies here, and there's some really powerful energies here, and just like to acknowledge that as well. And I'm not from here, and just before I introduce the rest of the panelists, I'm a Gomeroi Murray from northwest New South Wales. I live in Western Sydney, and I'm a big advocate for Western Sydney, and that's changed when I first moved to Western Sydney, and over 20 years I've sort of waited for sort of the arts, if you could call it that, or the industry of the arts and the culture of arts to rise or to surface out there, because it's been sort of that thing of I had to come into the inner west or the city to enjoy or be part of or feel where there's the majority of where arts were taking place. So it's really interesting that I don't know. I've lived long enough to see a place like Parramatta thrive now, and the strength of that, but also the mob that are out there. Referring back to the populations of Western Sydney and where mob live out is in the western suburbs of this city. So let's talk about today, and let's place ourselves here within the conversation. Today's Access Ideas and Insights focuses on First Nations storytelling, and we're very grateful to be gathering here at Gumbaynggirr, as I said, on Gadi country. And I'm joined by three incredible panellists who bring collectively a wealth of knowledge and experience and creative practices that are shifting, and as always shifting, and they're riding it, and they're making their own mark, which is really profound to see, and I always pinch myself when I see that, and it's a real pleasure to introduce them. Please join me in welcoming Aretha Brown, who's a Gumbaynggirr artist, screenwriter, and cultural advocate. And we have Akala Newman, Wiradjuri and Gadigal, or Gadi, multi-disciplinary artist, cultural producer, and educator. And we have Daniel, the brother over here, Daniel McDonald, who's a Gadigal and Wonnarua deaf LGBTQIA plus artist. Please welcome Daniel as well. Housekeeping. As we always do, all right, there's just a few housekeeping notes. We'll have time for audience questions at the end of the conversation. And if you're joining us online, you can submit questions at any time via Slido, the platform Slido. And if you're here in the room, please raise your hand when we get to that point of the conversation and the event, and we'll bring a microphone around to you so we can hear you, and the audience at home or wherever they're watching can hear you as well. We also have live captions and Auslan interpretation available throughout today's event. So, Yama, it's my language, it's Yama, Gomeroi. I'd like to start with Akala. So Akala Newman, Yama, how are you going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How's it feel to be here?
Oh, really special. I think we were just having a yarn before. I remember being a little girl in high school and coming here as one of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander youth programs. So I was standing there dancing and looking through that mirror being like, I can't believe I'm here where all these mob have stepped foot, and it's just a really special place, yeah.
It is a special place. I think it comes in waves here too. I'm sitting, I'm relaxed, and I'm like, oh, there's something else here, Not that it's just beautiful energy, right? I'd like to ask a question. So you're developing, straight into it.
Yeah.
You developed a 6-week course called Ripples of Memory, which invites community members to consciously slow down, to reflect and connect through multi-sensory art making. The course is led by you and with other First Nation mob artists. Can you share with the audience and the mob that are listening it online more about what the Ripples of Memory project is?
Yes. How long do I have? That's the question. I First of all, I want to say thank you guys for that beautiful welcome and acknowledgement. I really appreciate being grounded here in this space. And also your comment out about us being the young ones. It's like sometimes I don't feel it, but I don't pretend to know everything. And I think everything I've learnt and how to, put on events, I've learnt from my elders and the knowledge holders and my mentors, and I'm so grateful for, some of them in the room. And I think Ripples of Memory started as this love project, mostly for me. I think growing up, my dad was part of the stolen generation, and he always told me he was one of the lucky ones. He was with 10 brothers and sisters who were taken from central New South Wales to Sydney Basin. And it was there he found out my great-great-grandma was Elsie Kinchela, and she was born on this Sydney Basin. And a part of that knowing was him, redefining his narrative and being strong in who he is again. And his grandfather found him. And as I was growing up, I had always, imagined how difficult that would be, but knowing that I have to make sure I take every opportunity and tell my story. And how I do that is by bringing other people along on that journey too. But I think for me, there was still a lot of anger and there was a lot of intergenerational pain as well. And I thought navigating that, like everyone goes, you're so relaxed. And I think a part of that, without performance and without storytelling and without meditation and art, I would not be the person I am today, trying to challenge all of that. And I think it's the same for all of you guys too, like challenging that and putting it into something tangible and embodied. So originally the project was called Water Memory, and I did a bunch of different workshops around Sydney. And the biggest thing that I heard was people saying, we want more of this, we can't just do this 2-hour meditation and watercolor and walk away. And I was like, yes, this is the point. The point is when we're together, something magical happens, and it is this embodied knowledge that strengthens us and almost protects us. And it's radical, and it's radical joy. And I think that's what I wanted to create with Ripples of Memory. It wasn't just a workshop, it was a collective. So every time people come, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't always like to be the one facilitating or talking. I think it's really important when you're working with Mob to bring in other artists to have their voice, particularly as a teacher too. Yeah. So bringing them in was really important. And this one is the first kind of pilot that we've done at Surrey Hills Neighbourhood Centre. And it's been awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I could keep talking to you about.
I love that name. I love the name,
thing.
Ripples. Ripples of Memory. I mean, exactly what it is,
Yeah.
right? And you're invoking that, and sharing that too. Sharing and being conscious of unpacking memory.
Yes.
And then, when we take that on, and from the ones that have, whether they're parents or our aunties and uncles or pops and nan and that. And I think it's I can only reflect on my time as an artist, and then that is something that I wish I had the chance to unpack as well, and actually sit in that.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful, and I think it's very cathartic to, if I could say that you're doing that within a practice, within investigating where you want to go, and it informs where your practice may lead as well. I think that's a very commendable thing, because you're going, oh, this is me as well as I learn, as I keep honing my craft. I think that's possibly reflective of the time that we live in as well too. It's not something to be possibly shied away from. I really enjoy
I love
that.
how you said cathartic, because I think one big thing without the workshops and what I do is even though I guess when you're talking about memory, it's so sensitive and there is so much sensitivity around the subject, but I always just grew up thinking, it's not healing, it's that means you're broken. You're not broken. You're never broken. And being able to like be with others who are on that same journey and same path with you, that's all I ever wanted, and trying to bring that into a space. That's what's special for me. Yeah.
It's incredible. And it's something that could be spoken of as something that's happening simultaneously as well. Like I'm healing, or I'm investigating how to heal or express craft at the same time that I'm exploring ways of strengthening. I swear it's something in this energy in this room about I was never a dancer, but there's some energy here that talks about movement and strength here. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm feeling it, so I just wanted to say that out loud. So, thank you. I've always said that. No.
I'll talk about later.
That would be later, but there is an opportunity. Hold on to it. I'm more than happy to. Yeah, I'll go straight to you actually when we get to that. Thank you so much. We'll circle around, and then I've got a question for Aretha. Lovely to meet you.
Hello.
And in person, and I've, for all three of you, I did some looking up and, reminding myself who you deadly artists are and practitioners are and craftspeople.
Yeah.
And then I was reminded, Aretha Brown, right? And you're one of the artists featured in the 5th National Indigenous Art Triennial.
Yeah.
I'll say that word. And After the Rain at the National Gallery of Australia,
Sure, yeah.
curated by Mr. Tony Albert.
Yeah, the iconic.
Tony. And at your age, which is exactly half my age, at 25, you're one of the youngest artists ever selected, and could you, which is pretty amazing, right?
Thank you. I'm the youngest woman, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Hey, deadly. How run us through that experience.
Also, sorry, just to preface really quickly, I'm having a really bad asthma flare today. I flew into Sydney last night. I was in Melbourne doing a big mural, working with fumes all week, so my asthma is crazy. I had a big mask on, don't worry, all my protection stuff, but I'm a little bit huffy and puffy, so if I am wheezing, that's what that is. But yeah, so the NGA, the National Gallery, obviously in Canberra, there's the big Indigenous Triennale on at the moment, and yeah, I'm really lucky to be the youngest woman to ever do it at 25. I'm in close proximity to another hero of mine, Dan Boyd, who was also 25 when he was in it as well, which is pretty amazing, big hero of mine. And yeah, I don't know, how familiar you guys are with my work. Lots of young people know me through social media, but my work is mostly gigantic murals, to be honest, in street art. I very, very rarely work in galleries. It's kind of my whole thing by choice. And so for me, to be honest, accessibility was always at the forefront of my practice from the very beginning, and that was so intentional as a street artist. Very similar story to you, sis, all Stolen Gen family. My grandma, Jan Brown, we grew up in Nambucca Heads, which is about 6 hours from here, up the coast, on Nambucca Mission, and when my nan was about 15, was taken to Blacktown, and, because of the Stolen Generations, that had a profound effect on our family, obviously. And, I think because of that, and what that kind of relationship to institutions looked like, I had a real, I still have somewhat of a distrust with art galleries in particular. For me, I always wanted my art to be the most accessible thing possible, and for me, that was the street, You don't have to pay anyone to see it. You can drive past it. Doesn't matter if you're in a car, if you're sitting down, if you're walking, it doesn't matter. You can still enjoy the art. There's literally no barrier that I could think of. And for me, that was always the coolest thing about being a street artist. And so the cool thing about the National Gallery was I've done 70 murals now with my art collective all around the world, which is so deadly. And at the very end, we've managed to get into a gallery. So it's like we've gone outside the system this whole time to then be invited back in. And I think for me, it's like, again, with accessibility being at the forefront of my mind, to then be invited in at the end is pretty cool, I guess. But for me, again, I look to someone like my nan who, because of the stolen gen, she didn't get to go to school, so she had to learn to read and write later in life. And so things like accessibility around language was always big for me. It's why my work is so symbol heavy. I love symbols. I barely use language, and if I do, as someone that suffers with spelling, dyslexic stuff, and I'm not good with my words, symbols are everything to me. So things like making sure that's accessible. My art collective that I paint my murals with, it's all females, all women collectives, because the street art scene's so male dominated. So for me, it was always about employing other girls to come paint with me, and all friends of mine, young girls. And yeah, I think, again, I turn to someone like my nan or my pop, who I think about my pop, who was like real traditional bushman, Roger Brown, who's passed away now, God bless. And I kid you not, the smartest man I've ever met, like so clever, but you wouldn't catch him at the, Sydney Contemporary Gallery or, Art Gallery of New South Wales. And it's not because he couldn't, get there. It's because he didn't feel comfortable in those spaces as an Aboriginal man. And for me, it's like, why would I want to make art that my own grandfather couldn't enjoy, So for me, if I did murals, he would always come and look at them, There was no barrier. There was no gatekeeping. There was no gallerist in the middle, no curator even taking a big cut, It was totally up to me. And for me, yeah, that's what accessibility kind of looks like. Yeah. Sorry, I just
incredible.
ranted. That was just a huge
No
rant.
way, not at all.
Yeah.
We create space, and we've had to create space and make space, and hold on to space for the next generation that comes through, or because we know if we lose it in a particular area, whether it's in visual arts or on dance or in that, then it's really hard, maybe possibly even a generation to get back to hold that space. That's the word I was looking for. You know what I'm saying about what's that word? Holding space, blah blah blah. Creating space. Yeah, holding space. Holding space right now because it's important, and having the gravity of our weight. Our words to sit. I was very nervous before. Now I feel here now actually, and that's powerful. And that space as well, because what you were saying, it is male dominated. That's the. Would you say? How do you? I'm not a visual. Never was a visual artist, but is it the street scene
art?
or the street
art,
art scene? Yes.
Yeah.
And a long history of that too, and
But at the same time, I always say that, like, if we look at rock art in this country as street art, Aboriginal women have been doing it since the beginning of time.
Yes.
It's actually nothing new, Rock art is public art. That's street art.
Very true.
For
That's
real.
it. Yeah.
Genuinely. So it's like I've just got my paint from Bunnings. That's the only difference. I didn't make it. I didn't make it. That's the only difference. And I've got a bigger wall, or but not even a bigger wall sometimes, smaller walls sometimes. But it's the same tradition continued on in a different way. If we're thinking about public space, and for me, public space and accessibility is like that junction is just so integral to all of our lives, right? And how we occupy public space, how we feel comfortable in public space, what histories we want to amplify in public space. And again, I know I sound like I'm got a real, real against galleries, which they're right, they're fine. But for me, it was like accessibility is everything. I didn't want any financial barriers, literally nothing for people to enjoy art, especially in this country where people, the people I'm trying to get to, they're not going to go to an Indigenous art exhibition. They don't care. But if they're riding on the subway and they see my mural, then you're forced to see it and reckon with that, So how are you kind of involving people that don't understand and don't have a willingness to misunderstand, For me, it was like, you're going to see whether you like it or not. So, yeah.
And you've caught their eye. You've caught their eye. And if it's, I can imagine that so vivid. You're on that train and you see it for even like a microsecond, and you go,
yeah.
oh, incredible.
And the coolest thing is when people are like, oh, I didn't even know this was Aboriginal art. I thought Aboriginal art is all dot art, you know, and a lot of people still think that, unfortunately. And so
that old
that's always a
chestnut.
fun, yeah, it's always, you know, fun to do that, freak them out. But it's good.
And incorporate more and progress more and keep filling the cup, so to speak, if I wanted to use that sort of phrase. Thank you. Thank you so much. Daniel, my brother here, thank you again for the great welcome. It's pretty powerful to have a person from Gadi country and actually say welcome, and it's always different from acknowledgement, as we all know. Could you tell us about Deadly Hand Talk, because you mentioned it before when in your welcome and your address to us and setting the scene, and because it's such a strong visual name when I heard Deadly Hand Talk.
Okay, thank you, brother Colin. So I'll tell you a little bit about Deadly Hand Talk, so where it comes from. I was born deaf, and so my brain didn't know anything but visual. So there was no sound until I was about 3 years old. I was doing everything through seeing, so my brain had energy to see. And so there was a lot of delays, obviously, for me as a child. So deadly to me meant awesome, something that looks fantastic. It's something you see as good. It's got colours. It's different. There's animals. There's land. There's the environment. There's humans. People of different varieties. The world in different countries. So hands. Once I learned to sign, I was 5. It was a delay for me to start learning to sign. So I would start to draw because I couldn't speak. I didn't know how to say words. So everything was a visual communication. So I always draw things. Like different cartoons. The Flintstones. You know, the chickens. I'm drawing little things like that. It was like KFC was when I drew a chicken. So KFC is what I wanted for dinner. So that was my chicken, you know. That was my visual communication. So, and the talk is that talking in Auslan, so I'm using my hands to communicate with the community. And then I found out this deadly word together, and I thought, okay, let's put this together. Deadly hand talk. That's beautiful. I love it.
Could you extend on that, and then within that about your storytelling practices?
Okay. As a deaf child, in summer camps with all the kids, it was in Red Rock, which is north of Coffs Harbour. There was an Aboriginal group of kids there. I was very close with Mum Shirl. She's my grandmother's first cousin. And she was watching me and observing me as a deaf child, and could see, you know, this is this beautiful boy, what are we going to do with this boy, you know? All the kids were playing around, but I was always in trouble because, you know, they would always point their fingers at me, you know? And so elders, Uncle Bruce Smith, so he was one of the artists, and he would ask me to come and sit with him, and he would teach me how to paint. And I remember I was trying to improve my painting skills with the dots. I became very isolated as a child, and that sort of inspired me to get through my life in the deaf community. Mum Shirl was one of the advocates for me for men and women that were in jail, domestic violence, and she would fight for the government. She was one of the most powerful women in Australia. She had some good ideas to give me opportunities to advocate, and doing Welcome to Country, and also with my artwork. There was many different things that she tried to encourage me to do. Not everything was successful always, of course. There was different things. There was lots of diversity. But, you know, I was delayed and I was trying to catch up. But today I'm here and I'm enjoying these speeches today. It's been great. Thank you.
It's okay, thank you. I have to keep going with artistic practice and storytelling. Back to you, Aretha. Navigating storytelling through various mediums, including murals, of course murals, street art gallery exhibitions, and the Teach Black History Project. Let's talk about that. Let's and then I would love to hear you describe what factors chooses location for your street art, and then also, as I flip the page over, public murals in outdoor spaces versus having the physical works represented in a gallery wall space. I wrote that question and I forgot, and I thought it was really good.
What am I talking about? Teach Black History Project.
Storytelling. What that storytelling and putting it up on publicly.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess it's all pretty linked for me. I think. So I'm a Melbourne girl, born and bred, and like every Indigenous person, I went to school and struggled with not seeing any Aboriginal history reflected back in the curriculum at all. I'm 25 now and didn't get out of high school, too long ago. And even then, I got virtually nothing. It was still the first page in the textbook was Aboriginal history, gammon little page, and then 200 pages of white history. And for me, that always felt like such a problem because I would be taught this, go home and talk to my nan, who is a survivor of the stolen generations, hear her story, see the direct impact of it affecting our family, presently, and then go back to school. And I felt like I was being like educationally gaslit. Honestly, it was like people kind of didn't understand. I was going and going. I know this thing to be true, and the school going, well, we don't have any. We don't know, And again, it's like this kind of gaslighting of like, what is going on? And so as a teenager, I was, I rebelled. I would go and learn from my elders. I'm really close with Uncle Gary Foley, iconic Aboriginal activist, Gumbaynggirr fella, my mob. And he's a really radical fella. He got me up at a lot of rallies in Melbourne, honestly, with some of the war mob down there. And the first rally I spoke at, I think I was 15, so year 9, got up and spoke about, why isn't there Aboriginal history in my school right now? What's going on? And eventually I did a bunch of those rallies and I got elected the first female Prime Minister of the National Indigenous Youth Parliament, which is such a mouthful, but essentially it's like, organising a lot of young youth mob. And that was great. It was lots of trips to Canberra, which was fine, I guess. It's Canberra. But what I was there for was, all the politics stuff, which I really liked. However, it was so unsustainable because I'd go and do these crazy parliamentary sittings with all these young mob, go back to school on Monday, and we weren't being taught anything, and it was just insane, And so for me, I think I kind of like, it wasn't sustainable to kind of do this one version of activism, which was going to rallies and speaking at things. I had to kind of switch lanes because, as we all in this room are all artists, all creatives, and it's something that's a lifelong thing. You do it forever. And so if I wanted to say the same story over and over again, I needed a new medium. So I chose painting. All the Aboriginal women in my family are painters. I'm a Brown, and if you're not a singer in the family, you're a painter, and like that's it. So those are my 2 career options, and I picked accordingly. And yeah, so got into painting, really loved it. And again, as someone that struggles with reading and writing, it was always funny because I'm dyslexic. I really struggle writing and spelling, but I always felt really good writing for stuff to be said out loud. So when I would write speeches, they would be nonsensical for anyone that ever got them, but they were to be said out loud, so it wouldn't really matter. But because of that, like I said, symbols became important to me, and yeah, like they became these kind of hieroglyphics in a way. And to be honest, it's not a a new thought at all. Like if we look into Indigenous history, we don't have written language in the traditional European sense. All our history is passed down through storytelling, dance, song,
Yes.
Paintings, cartography, markings, etchings, language, you name it.
It's like a shorthand,
literally, yeah.
You're devising your own shorthand of symbol
Exactly. And so
and power.
because of that, I never felt too inclined to kind of go backwards and go, well, I'm going to do everything in the European sense, and it has to be, if I'm going to say anything, it has to be written in a book with proper grammar, because I went, well, I'm right. I'm going to do it my own way, which was through painting. And so, to be honest, a lot of the symbols, a lot of them I was passed down from my black women in my family, and a lot of them I picked up on myself, and for me, yeah, that is my language. That's how I spell, essentially, And for me, Teach Black History it's pretty simple, but it's just all the murals I've done all over the world now. We've done, about 70, all depict Aboriginal history stories. So, for example, we did one in Osaka, Japan, a year and a half ago, and that was of Gary Foley and Gary Williams, which we did there, which was really amazing. They still laugh about it. I think it's really sweet that I did that. I always joke that we need to put a tent overseas in Tokyo, which they think is funny. And yeah, so like, that kind of thing. Or where else have we done? We've done it. I've done murals now in New York and in India, which is really exciting. And trying to think everywhere in Indonesia. And again, it's all about kind of connecting globally with this idea that Indigenous histories and stories are worth telling, because the biggest lie this country tells us is that we're not worth listening to, but everyone else outside the country is pretty interested. So for me,
we haven't existed.
Yeah,
We don't
I'll
exist.
be my own diplomat. I'll go do it then. I'm not waiting around.
Have you been over all those of the sorry, those murals that are not on this continent? Did you go to all of those openings, or
I painted every single one of them.
Oh, you went to
myself.
every? Okay, that's amazing.
So we've done. I'm trying to think. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to remember. So we done. The US, Canada. We did one as well, which was incredible with the band Amel and the Sniffers. I don't know if you guys know that crew, but they invited me over to go and do a big mural for their stage, and that toured all around Canada. And
Amazing.
Obviously Canada's got such a similar history with all their Indigenous crew, so it was just it was such a good way to connect. And
Turtle Island. It's amazing.
exactly. But I think for me it was like, again, because it's visual language, I don't need to spell stuff out. People understand and kind of immediately go, oh, a kangaroo and certain symbols. This is this culture, and this is alive, and this is it's just like having a kind of what's the word? Leaving an impression really on people. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, and what about that question about gallery wall space?
Well, again, like I know I sound like kind of not very self-aware, but it's the thing of like, because we've always done murals, for me, it's been the only way I've been able to sustainably be an artist. Because again, if you work in a gallery, as I'm sure you guys know, you make your painting, you sell it, and a gallery takes 50%, 40%. And for me, that was crazy. As an Aboriginal person, I was like, I'm not letting anyone, like, this is cultural knowledge and symbols that my family have taught me. Why am I letting someone I don't know take 40% of this cut? And it's a scary thing to talk about money as an artist. It's really scary. But for me, it was like, as a mural, I could financially be sustainable because I keep my own money, and I could afford my own team of girls that come and work with me, all my mates. So I'm employing like a little micro economy here with my mates who are young, also artists, trying to get their kind of skills up as well. And then also, again, like a white curator telling me if my work couldn't be in a space. Like, to be honest, if I had gone through the traditional route of going to art school, which I did actually. I didn't pass. I didn't actually graduate, which is funny. Which is like, you know, you go to art school, you come out, you make art, you do an exhibition, you sell the paintings, and then you do it again until you die. You're like, I never wanted to be part of that kind of way of doing it, because for me it seems like it's something that needs to change and evolve, especially with something like social media coming into the question. Young people like myself have a gallery in our pockets now, you know, and so gatekeepers who have kind of historically have kept mob like myself out of these places, don't really get that power anymore, you know. And so for me it was like, with social media and public artworks, I kind of got to make a lot of that agency for myself. And that's not to say I don't have some deadly mentors, people that tell me off all the time, which I do, deadly, you know, elders who keep me in check, but I was never going to let anyone not let me make art.
Cheeky way, it was almost like saying gallery wall spaces possibly aren't their spaces, but maybe they're not safe spaces for mob to put their work.
Really, yeah. And that's not all of them. That there's so many great artist-run galleries who genuinely let artists keep all their own money and support them and help them introduce them to communities and whatnot. But some of them, it makes you question the relationship sometimes that feel a bit parasitic, honestly, and a little bit like exploitative of young artists who you go through 4 years of art school and you come out and, you know, people kind of, it's not sustainable, you know, so.
Yes.
A lot of them are very quiet during referendum. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry to keep rambling.
No, you're not rambling. This is informative, and I'm learning a lot as well, and you're putting us there. You're putting us there because there's an insight there. And thank you. Akala.
Yes.
I used to describe myself as, back in the day when I was trading the boards, and in some respects multi-disciplinary. I always put that in my bio. I love the fact that mob is still putting that in as a descriptor, and I'm sure there will be a time where there'll probably be another word to describe what we do, what I used to do, but what you do.
Yeah, yeah.
How does that does that still fit you to describe yourself
honestly,
as that? And because you do
I'm
so
like,
much, you do so much though.
Because I think like being multidisciplinary, what does that mean? And I think like an auntie once told me, us as mob, like we dance that tree, we can sing that tree, and we, you know, you say you can't sing, but we all sing. Like we all sing, we all dance, we all have parts
Sing in the
of
shower.
us. And no, but this, what's been passed down to us through the generations, and you know, my great auntie Leanne Tobin's always like, you don't do it, it's not our responsibility to, it is our responsibility to make art. We don't do it because we want to, you know, we have this need to pass on these stories and, you know, to be that person we didn't see when we were younger as well. And I think for me, writing music was that place for me. Like, I felt I was so pigeonholed in these different industries when I was starting out, and for me, the only way I could describe it was multidiscipline. But you have all these different hats on. I love how you spoke just briefly about like burnout and having all of these multi, you know, identities, and that speaks to also growing up, living between these two worlds, constantly having to navigate this, polarity, I guess. Yeah.
And it's you're just listening
So
to me.
sorry.
Don't be sorry. That's because it's made me realise again, also because of what the majoritarian talks about divvying up the arts. Like here's music, or you know, singing. Here's the visual arts and all that wonderful world that is, and dividing it up. It's sort of like. And for us, mob, it's all connected. We all, you know, and maybe, I don't know, and I'm just making me realise by saying interdisciplinary, we are those things. We exist in those things. We push out and explore those things.
Exactly. You can't separate them. You never can. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. I love that. let's talk about yarning and knowledge sharing. And that's, yarning is built on fundamental trust and fundamentally, and reciprocity and non-linear and free-flowing approaches of being connected. How does yarning allow for multiple truths and complex... No, I'm not going to answer that, actually. I'm going to ask Daniel something about yarning and knowledge sharing. How do deaf culture and Auslan shape the way you practice yarning? And do you see a relationship between the deaf culture and Auslan, and are there two distinct ways, and how do they connect with each other?
That's a good question. For me, I would say with our deaf culture it's different to being a part of an area. So meaning these things come up everywhere. So we have Aboriginal cultures everywhere. We have deaf Aboriginals in schools everywhere. We have an education system. So deaf schools had an Indigenous boy where one Indigenous boy went there. I was always in trouble. I was the only boy at the school, always in trouble. I didn't want to read English. I didn't want to do the maths. I didn't want any of those things. I hated it. And I just wanted to get outside. I didn't want to be in there. I wanted to go home and paint. That's all I wanted to do. And so, to be honest, with this old system, I guess my family, being Indigenous, they didn't understand my Auslan language and the communication that I used. So I went to a deaf school. So coming back home, I felt different. Like I was involved in that deaf school and in that deaf community. I had more conversations there. I had a lot more yarning there. So a few years ago, one person set up a deaf deadly mob in 1990, I think now, no, 2009, sorry. That was the very first time, there were about 30 deaf Aboriginal people that flew in, and we're trying to work out how we can do this again and try and do it every year, but it's never happened. Funding is always an issue. It's never easy to get enough funding. It's hard to get that type of funding to do something like that, to be able to bring more people together and share, because there's a lot more language there that is, and a lot more communication that's not out there that no one sees in that mob. And so most of the deaf Aboriginal artists, there are a lot of deaf Aboriginal artists in our community, all over Australia actually. I actually have one in this room here, a deaf Aboriginal woman who is actually an artist as well, and another person besides myself. And she's here today to share with us, and she's been supporting me as well. And so when we talk about the yarning, I guess I'll say hearing Aboriginal mobs, they use their language and they speak in their way and they speak their history and their stories in that way. They have a lot of knowledge, but deaf Aboriginal community don't have that access to that. And we don't get to see that or understand that as like others do. So we have to play catch up and try and keep up with that. And so it's a very different, very diverse type of yarning compared to what others do. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. An unfortunate sense in a lot of ways. But thank you.
I hope I use the right words there. I don't know if that makes sense, if that actually answers the question or not.
Yeah. Thank you. Deadly answer too. Yeah. We like to move on, but, we've gone so quick that I've just been told that we need to open it up to the audience. I don't know where the time went. Maybe I was just... There is an audience here? Maybe I just blocked us all out. And I felt so cocooned here. Gee, there's energy here. There's wonderful energy here. All right, so we'll go to the audience. Was that? we'll just get you a microphone.
Sorry, just extending, Daniel, on your last words, another deaf artist once told me that English is not her first language, and any call-out she is excluded from because it's not in her first language, and the forms that she fills in are not in her first language. Can you talk to that in your experience, please?
Okay, that's great. Interesting. As a deaf people, we have different. We have deaf Indigenous groups. We have a strong brother and sister connection between us in the way we live, and where their country, they're very isolated, and so they build their own artistry in that way. So that country. So, for example, Ayers Rock. There's a deaf person that lives there and that has land there as part of their own art. And that's very different to other different countries. So it's not the same, it's very different. So when I had my art on display, most people look at the art and I guess they're a bit shocked, inspired by that. Because deaf people have a powerful spirit in their mind. And they feel, like they can feel wind, they can feel water, they can feel rain, but they can't hear a bird. But they can see the bird fly, they can visualise that, they can feel the land, they can pick up the sand and feel it, and they can feel vibrations. And that's how I've learnt as a child growing up. That's how I learnt. And that time, it was a very unusual time. As a deaf artist, it was very creative, I guess. Aboriginal art was more, I guess, more in depth to the land. The connection was there, as opposed to the deaf group. To be honest with you, I mean, it's a good point. I've learned a lot of things. I've kept it in my back of my mind. But with disability, being deaf, artistry, I guess you would say it's a low level of art, meaning that the quality and the art levels out there are very different to what we produce. So when I put my art up there and they look at that and they look at mine, they go, oh, wow, it's very different. It's not the same. It's a different level. Yeah? So I can't really say that they're the same. So that's what I see. A lot of deaf people complaining about that low level being not good and being pushed aside. But it's like we need to stand up for that. This is who we are.
Thank you.
Big goosebumpy.
We have another question halfway up the audience. We just wait for the mic. It's right there.
Quick question for Daniel. That's interesting. You use the words lower level. It's probably a different perspective. I feel I'm because I'm not really from an art background myself, so it's hard for me to speak. To be honest, I've seen your work, and it's blown my mind. And lower level doesn't come into any equation of all the art that I have seen, and I actually have seen a lot of art. So it's that description is interesting to me because maybe that is something that maybe deaf people do identify in that way, that it's a lower level. But if you're an example of a deaf artist, then I actually just see excellence and quality. So it's kind of different how we see that differently. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
As someone who's naive to all your art, I'm going to just say theoretically, but I think it would be true, that I studied visual arts at master's level, and my opinion is that I'm so sick of going through all the formalistic processes. You know, what is art, what material it is the artist even significant or not? And I think a lot of Western art has got very little to offer. It is actually coming to an end point. And the only way contemporary visual art would continue validly is for social impact, is for storytelling, for people who need to understand and learn and absorb. And the very thing you're all describing to me is exactly the future, is the relevance today of contemporary art, and it's the future. So I went to see, for example, I won't name, but a very senior performance artist, and the work was about erasure of his own work. And I thought, is that the erasure of the artist mythology? Like, we've got to the point where it's not even, you know, the artist is present is one example of where you say, oh, the artist is really important, therefore all their work is really important because it's about this artist. What happens when even those last bastions of formalistic properties, we go, that we've done that. What's relevant now? We've got no other challenges in art except we come back to humanity and people's storytelling and sharing that for people that don't understand. So I would say there's no such thing anymore as a low art. There is how successful that expression is. Because the social impact you've got to say is the most important and powerful thing that connects us to humanity, connects us to emotional experience of those with lived experience. How important is that?
Yeah. Reminds me of something. What's that? The serpent that eats its own tail or something? Orbis, you know, or something really
Sorry, we
Machiavellian or something.
We have an online question. We might just take the online question and we'll come back to the audience if that's okay. Sorry, 1 second.
What is the role of artists, writers and arts writing in documenting First Nations creative practice and expanding its visibility and accessibility to both communities and allies?
You have an excellent voice. Yes. I was like, sorry.
Help.
Anyone?
Help with some emails would be good. No, I honestly, like, it sounds funny, but again, it's not from lack of amazing Aboriginal artists or lack of even like amazing Aboriginal artworks that already exist. Half the time, it's just like a lot of mob need that extra bit of help with all the documentation and the bureaucratic stuff. Really, that's all it is. It's doing things as simple as helping with emailing or, you know, getting stuff written up for galleries or getting didactic information out or helping with archiving stuff. It's actually like stepping up in a really, in a way that you'd help a friend, you know, like how can I help you with writing to actually help take some of the workload off of us. And I was joking about the emails, but I'm also like not joking. Like it's also writing grants, you know, if there's any First Nations artists in your community and you say, listen, I don't have any money right now, or I can't give this, or this, but I can give you an hour of my time this week. Let's sit, I'm going to help you write a grant. And again, it's not that we can't. I'm sure we could all manage to do our own grant writing. It's not about that. It's about understanding that as Aboriginal artists and practitioners, we have to navigate so many spaces constantly to look after our community that things like bureaucracy and the formality around, you know, art and the art world always falls behind, you know. I'm the worst person with that kind of stuff, and it's because I'm also got to look after little cousins and I got to look after community and I've got to do this and this. And so, again, it's less about like, hey, we need more, you know, cool arts magazines. It's more like, help us write some emails, you know, or some grants. Like, practically, what can you help with writing, especially if mob have trouble with spelling and stuff like people like myself.
Yeah, and I think that also comes with loving and supporting your community arts centres as well. Like, those are the people that will step up and, you know, help, like us mob too. And, yeah, and creating those pathways, I think particularly out of school, like, you know, really had to learn everything myself and do everything myself. And even with grant writing, it's another whole world, so it's really important, yeah.
Dan?
That's a really good question. I'd like to say interesting with Mum Shell, she used to tell me about the bird cage. She used to talk about the bird cage and being locked and being stuck in this bird cage and just stay there and being stuck there in silence. And I would often be in that bird cage and I'd be trying to do my painting, right? And so I'd have to find ways to save money, you know, earn some money, and we'd have to spend out of our own pockets, hiring galleries for ourselves. You know, did it so many times, paying for my flights to go to Japan, just like you did, showing your art there. And so I just need somebody to open up that bird cage so I can do it and be free and to go out there and bring my art to show the world. That's my way. So, yeah, I did go out to Japan, and they had no expectations of what Aboriginal art was and what it meant. And so it was really beautiful going out there and being free to show them what we do.
That's brilliant. Should we have another question for the audience? Just there?
Hi. It sounds like, as well as being amazing artists, all of you are really amazing community builders. And I just wanted to ask, to what extent is that fueling or shaping your work? Have there been moments where you felt like you were doing it more for community than for yourselves, or does that make sense? There is a question mark at the end of that one, I promise.
It's a great question. Anyone would like to answer that on the panel?
Good question. I guess when growing up myself, elders would teach us, very similar to what you were saying earlier, that influence, you know, in dream time, that connection that we have, and that gives us a visual that helps us to paint and share that story and show that painting is there for. I guess the story comes from there. I mean, people write stories like Welcome to Country, and that's part of our art as well. That's how we get inspired and influences us, right?
And yeah, totally. Just also, piggyback off that, I guess. This idea of community organising as well is a huge thing for Mob. And I mean, I tell every other young artist I meet, like, make your own collective. A collective could be two people, and like no one can tell you otherwise, you know. Especially within, like, you know, like genuinely within any community, you can make a collective. Whether that's some of your mates, or for me, it's like other Mob, women, other street artists. And I think, you know, because as artists, we are prone to exploitation, let's be honest, with our values and our worth. If you have a collective, suddenly you got someone you can talk to. Hey, sis, how much are you selling your painting for? Or I'm selling it for this. What, you're selling it for that much? I'm selling it for this much. I didn't even know I could charge that much, you know? That's what it comes down to. Oh, what? I can charge that much? Of course you can charge that much. Or, oh, no, don't work with that, you know, that gallery is a bit funny, like they don't have a good track record with Mob, work with this crew instead. And so, again, no matter who your community is, whether that's, you know, anyone, it's just like having that kind of it's having people that can keep you accountable, and also the systems around us accountable as well. Because otherwise, the worst problems with artists is we work in isolation. It's the worst thing that can happen. That's when people get exploited. That's when people are made very vulnerable. That's when we use up all our savings, spending it all, you know, trying to get stuff done, when really there are things out there, but collectives are where it's at. And again, like, you know, art unions do exist. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, it can be as informal as having 3 friends. You're all like doing watercolor, and you guys are learning it together. You're making it together. And then also you get to talk the business side of it too, because at the end of the day, this is still a career, and we want to have long, sustainable careers and, you know, do this our whole lives. And in order to do that, you've got to keep everyone accountable. And that's what I think a collective does. So for me, that's why we Kiss My Art, which is my... Kiss My Art's my art collective. Thank you. Which is all girls in my street art collective. It's, again, we just did a mural all week in Melbourne, and I get to rock up every single day. There's 4 of my best mates there. We get to work on a essentially a construction site. We've all got our licenses to use all the fun machinery and go up and down forklifts and stuff, and no man can tell us otherwise, you know? And I get to pay my friends. I'm about to get paid for the mural. I'll go home and I'll invoice them and pay my mates. And then that collective, it's pretty like, you know, we look after each other. And so for me, everyone, regardless of which community you are, we've all got one or multiple communities, make a collective and give it a name, and essentially you get a band. You know, you just don't have to play any instruments, which is pretty cool.
Oh, geez. Unfortunately, we're running right out of time. Can I just get everyone to give a round of applause for panellists? And I'd like to invite Liz Martin, the CEO of Accessible Arts, to the stage for some final words. So thank you so much. God, it's gone so quickly.
Are we on? Wow. Thank you so much to our beautiful panel for the most warm, generous, insightful, welcoming conversation, and for creating such a beautiful space and sharing with us this afternoon. Deepest thanks to Gumbaynggirr, the whole team, and especially Claudia Elder and Shane Carroll, Kai Mora and Kate Hamilton for hosting us here this afternoon. A deep thank you to Daniel McDonald for the beautiful welcome. And to Colin Kinchela for opening up and allowing such a beautiful space for us to share this afternoon. Deep thanks. And to our wonderful guest panellists, Aretha Brown, Akala Newman and Daniel McDonald. Thank you for coming and sharing this afternoon. Amazing thanks to Live Crowd for always joining us and streaming this out across the nation. Thanks to our wonderful Auslan interpreters. Thanks to the captioning studio. And my dearest thanks to the beautiful Accessible Arts team for being so brilliant and pulling this all together and bringing it with such heart and generosity. Thanks to our principal funder, Create New South Wales. And a few announcements. We're going to flip over to another slide in a minute. Just a reminder that we're continuing, most of these conversations are continuing in our podcast series. So we've just dropped the next one. You can follow the QR code any minute now, and you can flip over and you'll be able to hear the podcast, the most recent one we've just released. We are running a next public training session will be on creative access on the Thursday, the 7th of May. If you haven't done it yet, I really urge you to check it out. Try it. It's fascinating. It'll blow your minds a little bit. And I'm not worrying about those anymore. A little secret heads up. We haven't launched this yet, but if you're a visual artist or a writer or a musician, we'll be launching the Bundanon Artist and Accessible Arts Residency applications soon. That will open in April. And the Ripple Disability and Culturally Diverse Paid Internship Program will again be running in 2026, and that will open within the next week or two. So keep an eye out for those. Stay in touch. Subscribe to our e-newsletter and socials. It is so great working alongside of you and all of us doing this work together. It's a total honour. Thank you for joining us today, either online or in person. If you're in the room, please hang around and join us for some light refreshments and hellos in the foyer. Again, thank you to our beautiful panel, and thanks to your good selves.
Thank you.